I always love to start with this movie because it really well demonstrates where we are coming from at the Rijksmuseum. Yeah, okay. This one. Okay, so let me take you back to 2013 for a moment. The Rijksmuseum had been closed for 10 years. It actually took...
YouTube video playing in the background.
Yeah, YouTube.
In 1999 staat de Rijksgebouw voor een enorme uitdaging.
I'm probably the only one understanding what it says.
Het vernieuwde Rijksmuseum is, naar mijn idee,
Okay. No, just back to my... Okay, I should be more savvy than I am with computers. Just let me take you back. It took the original architects of the building of the Rijksmuseum 9 years to build the museum in the 19th century, and it took us 10 years to renovate it in the 21st century. But I can recommend you all to think big, move fast, and not close your museum for 10 years, but do take some time to change a couple of things, and it will bring you a completely new dimension. During the closure of the Rijksmuseum, the entire world changed. If your museum is closed for 10 years, you're confronted with an entirely new world when you reopen. And in our case, it changed from some people having computers or laptops to a new generation of kids that have an iPhone in every pocket of their coat and are completely digitally oriented. This photograph was taken by a press photographer, and he was very neutral in it, but it spurred a huge debate whether or not it's good that kids look at screens a lot of times and ignore art. Although I don't think they ignore art, I just think they have a new way of grasping reality, of dealing with the real world. My own daughter, who's 12, starts her day on a screen and then checks out reality. So she first checks her email and then she checks reality. These kids learn about the night watch through digital medium, not through the books that we try and offer them. Okay, let's see what walking distances I have. Just a small introduction into the Rijksmuseum. This is, the number part that I have. This is who we are. We are a collections museum, so we have 1.2 million objects that tell the story of the Netherlands, starting in medieval times and going to current times. So when the museum was closed, we had time to rethink who we are. And one of the decisions we made was that we are about our collection, and that is a huge difference between us and, for instance, a lot of historical museums. We have a lot of small stories in our objects that we want to tell. It's not one story and the collection as an illustration to that. So that's where we maybe differ from other museums. But also because of the vast amount of our collection, when we started planning the new museum and the new galleries and the new exhibitions, we also realized that there's no building in this planet that is big enough to show 1.2 million objects. So whatever we would come up with, we would never be able to show the entire collection. And I don't know what the situation is like in Denmark, but in the Netherlands there is this debate that, museums have a lot of objects that they never put on display, so why on earth keep them? Shouldn't you be selling them or giving them away or whatever? We don't think that's a good idea. So we try to be intelligent about the collection and try and come up with places where we would be able to exhibit it. And actually, the internet is the only place where you can exhibit your vast collections. It's the only place where you can show 1.2 million objects. And that was actually what we wanted to do. That was the outcome of all of our debate. And this is some of the bold statements my director Taco Dibbits made. He was first touched by digital when he got his first iPad. And it was, you know, for him, computers were awful things that looked ugly and, you know, never functioned the way you want it to work, and it's difficult and so on. And then he got an iPad and he was totally smitten with it, you know, and suddenly he said, if we put our art on it, I can touch it, I can zoom in on it, I can, you know, do all these things with it that I cannot do in my own museum. I cannot touch my paintings, but I can touch them on an iPad. And that's when he started talking about, you know, putting high resolution images online, sharing them with the audience. And I later on learned that this is a big difference with a lot of other museums. We did not have to try and find arguments to convince my director. He bombarded us with arguments, and we, you know, okay, Taco, calm down. We sell images, it's a business model, you know, should we really give it up? And so that was a bit of a difference. We didn't really have to convince him. He was telling us that the internet is the way to go with our collection. Of course, we still had difficulties within our organization. We had this management vision of open and sharing and high resolution online. But we did have an image department that sold images. And at the Rijksmuseum, with 1.2 million objects in the collection, we actually made some money on this. I always laugh about museums saying that they have a huge business model in image selling. I think that's a lie. A lot of times we sell some images and we make some money, but you don't run a museum on it. But still, his statements made us lose some money, and some of my colleagues really panicked because they worked in the image selling department and they were afraid that they would lose their jobs. Later on, but that is at the end of my presentation, we changed the entire business model. So no one got fired. We actually have more staff than we ever had. So there's a good end to this story. But we didn't know. When the museum was closed before 2011-12, no other museum ventured out this way. We had Europeana that was out there having images online, and, you know, we had our own images online, because another thing we realized when we started looking at the internet as an exhibition place was that we could try and hide our images from the internet because we wanted to sell them. But the internet was already filled with images. It was flooded with images. This was our best selling image, but as you can see, this is a Google query. Everyone else had already posted our image, and a lot of times, and we always laugh about it, but a lot of times people do weird stuff with your images. They Photoshop a cat or their own faces into it. And, you know, I tested this on all my kids. I asked my kids which one is the original or comes closest to the Milkmaid by Vermeer. And of course they understand that the cat is fake, but they can pick any of these pictures because they're clueless. And we found out in our museum that a lot of people think that the Milkmaid is very yellow. So a lot of people think this comes closer to reality than this one or that one up there. And that is sad, because the yellow only happens when you digitize this image on a poor quality scanner. It's because then the computer thinks, oh, here's yellow, there must be yellow there too. So what we're actually doing is, you know, putting the worst images, the ones that stand away from the original the furthest, we're putting them on the internet and make people believe that that is the original image. And then they come to the Rijksmuseum and they're always in shock. Oh, it's not yellow. No, it isn't. It's just the computer that made it yellow. So what we try to do is try to find a new way to put images of a museum on the internet. In 2011, we launched our first website where we had the traditional museum's website, where you have the search boxes and you can enter search queries. Our box actually said, enter your search query here. And guess what? That was the phrase that was used most. So if we checked our statistics, we would get 100,000 queries to enter your search query here. That was because people just started pressing enter to see what we had in our collection, but you wouldn't get anything because we were waiting for you to enter as a keyword to answer. So what we did was we kicked out all the difficult search query things and put at the first position the high resolution image of the object. So, you know, within 1 or 2 clicks you get a high resolution image. And I work in the collection information department, so we are the word people, and we wanted words on the screen because we put a lot of work in it. And Taco actually, he cut it out all the time. So we put words here, try to get the words up to here, and he would cut them out again. So this is, if you click on the eye, you will get more information about the object. But it was his constant battle to put the image online first. And we started testing all kinds of things to see what people like if they get art on their iPad or on the computer. And we just copied one of those things that a lot of social websites have. You can like or heart an image. And the interesting thing is that I don't know how you would have been able to find this image on our old website. It's a Japanese photograph of a woman standing on her head, something no one ever looked for in our original database. But for some reason, someone found this image on our new website, probably by using color search or whatever, and someone liked it. And as soon as someone starts liking an image, it sort of appears higher in results or in just browsing through the website, and other people start liking it. So this one has 41 people liking the image. And that is, it's not really crowdsourcing, but it's very democratic. You know, you can see what people like and you can start, working with it. So the next thing we came up with was what we call the Rijksstudios. I don't know how many of you have ever tried Rijksstudios on the Rijksmuseum website. We looked at Pinterest when we were creating our new website, and on Pinterest you can collect the things that you like and create your own Pinterest boards or your own micro exhibitions, and we really liked it. Actually, everyone in the project team was on Pinterest and collecting things and sharing boards and so on. So we bluntly copied this model and called it Rijksstudios. But it turned out that we were not the only people liking it. As you can see, this is a screenshot of last week Friday. We now have 235,000 or more Rijksstudios. So between 2013 and now, I think up to 70,000 people created this amount of Rijksstudios. And we also have amazing statistics, and we didn't realize in advance. I would add to Michael's statements the statement, be creative. Just use your imagination. Don't stare at, other things, other people, or don't stare at your statistics all the time, or don't, and do endless user testing. Just try something different and see how it works. Don't try to keep your ideas very limited and very well tested and well thought of. Just be experimental, because this was just an experiment. It was just a sidekick to the main website, but now it's the main feature. We had other features that we had high expectations of. For instance, tagging. We had the very simple tags that people can add to your object on our website, and it didn't work in our museum. We had big design issues there. It looks a lot like the tags that we as a museum added. And a lot of people started complaining, if it said, nice picture, people would say, well, you're a museum, nice, what does nice picture mean? It's ridiculous. So we took that off again. So being brave is another of those things you should be. If it doesn't work, take it off. Don't keep thinking, oh, I paid a lot of money for it and it may start to work someday. Get it out. But this one was the biggest success we had, and it still blows my mind how many people work on it and how much time they spend on it. Because when we launched our website, in our previous website we had 35 queries in the database a month. So 35,000 questions were asked to the database. Current statistics is 300,000 queries a month. And on our previous website, people would spend 1 minute if we were lucky on our website, so they would have a specific question, search, leave the website. This one, when it was launched, people spent 12 minutes on an iPad on this website, which is mind-blowing for any website. Maybe YouTube has these kinds of statistics, but no other museum had this kind of statistics. I have to be honest, in the last 3 years, numbers dropped a bit. You know, this is so new and experimental sort of wore off, and now still it's 4 or 5 minutes on a website, which is a very long time in computer land. And the people that like the Pinterest part of the website, they do amazing stuff with our collection. So this lady, Yvonne Klop, I don't know her, but I think we should offer her a job. She created 20 boards, and all of them have a very specific subject, one that we never put work in. So she has one on the brushes you use to clean your fireplace. And this one is beautiful. It's about Little Red Riding Hood, so women with red hats. And it must have taken her hours to find these images. So she's constantly going through the collection, selecting images, cutting out little parts of bigger pictures to make these plates. She is doing an amazing job, and you know, points things into us that we aren't even aware of that is in the collection. So we recently added the 2 little buttons up there, you know, how many people looked at this board and do people like it. So that's why the number is still very low. But we hope to see in this way what people like in our collection. And it may even inspire us to do new exhibitions based on what people do online. There was also another weird side effect to the new website. As a museum, you get email from people helping you with your collection or pointing you to specific errors in your collection registration. We got flooded with emails, and we only have a very small line at the bottom of our object pages. It just says, if you have anything, if you know anything, or you want to, you know, tell us something, please email us. And when you click on it, you get an email. People email us 250 times a week. We have someone semi-permanent on staff dealing with the emails. I showed Marita one this morning. I'm going to talk about bird watching in the collection later on. I got an email this morning of someone who last evening did 6 more prints in our collection, you know, checking all the birds on the prints. So that it's a lot of work that these people put into it, and we get so much information. And technically this is as low technical as you can be, but it is so helpful. But we had to change a lot of things in our organization, so we needed people to deal with these these emails, because it takes so much time to process all the information we get. And we also had a different side effect. So we started sharing our images on the iPads and on computers and on our website in high resolution. And we also built an API, an application programming interface, and that is a sort of a technical power plug to the collection. I don't know how many of you know about APIs. Okay, some of you. It's technical metadata that people that know how to program can download and then use to create an application or a website or whatever on their own. A lot of times with an API you only get metadata, so you get words in structured ways. But we thought, you know, it's boring to get words from a museum, you want images from a museum. So in the API we also provide a link to the high resolution images, and people can download the high resolution images for free. That took a long debate with our image department. we started sharing our collection under a CC BY share alike license, because we were, you know, hesitant. What will people do with our images once they downloaded it? You know, will they start selling images in front of the museum, or, you know, whatever can they do with it? But, you know, Taco, and I love him for it, but also we found out that people aren't really doing bad things with your collection. Someone actually tried to sell postcards in the proximity of the museum, but we found out that people that visit the Rijksmuseum go to the shop in the Rijksmuseum and buy their postcards in the museum. So they don't buy them online or, you know, somewhere else in Amsterdam, or at least we don't lose money on that. And then Taco said, do I need a lot of lawyers to check if everyone, you know, shares the images of the Rijksmuseum under the CC BY share alike license, or, you know, let's just see what happens if we share it under a CC0 license. So he was very generous in that. And, you know, when we launched the new website, a lot of people started calling us, and they were willing to pay for images, and it just took us a long time to get the money in because we didn't have good financial systems. So other people wanted to become donators for the Rijksmuseum, and we like donators better than someone buying an image for 40 euros. So what we now do is we have donators that donate money for digitization projects instead of buying a single image. It saves us a lot of energy and time, and the people that used to sell the individual images are now image advisors, so they advise which collections should be digitized or shared online. So we actually make the same kind of money that we did. So we changed from a CC BY share alike to a CC0, please do whatever you like with our objects kind of license. And then we got pictures like this. This is someone that downloaded the night watch, printed it on textile and created a coat with it. And then she photoshopped herself. This was at the opening day, there was a red carpet. She photoshopped herself in it because I was there that day. I didn't see this coat and it was very busy. So she could not have been on her own on the red carpet. But still, it was this kind of creativity that, you know, made us so happy, because as a museum, it is our job to inspire people, you know, to do anything, to become great artists or just have a great day, just have a nice day. And in the beginning, we had no systems of dealing with these images, so we got them and we didn't know what to do with it. So we remodeled our website, and people can now upload their own creations onto our website and share it with other people online. So we don't want the coat in our collection, but we do have the image of the coat in our collection, and other people can be inspired by a coat as much as they can by the original painting. So we've been doing all of these kinds of things since 2013, and in the beginning we weren't that interested in crowdsourcing. We had the tagging system, but it failed on our website. But because we got so much response from people around us, we started thinking of new ways of dealing with the audience. For instance, a lot of our objects, and I think it goes for most of the museums, we do annotate them with their materials, their techniques, so it's always about storage and, you know, the art historical things that you know. But a lot of times we have very limited information about the iconographic things that happen on an object. So for instance, this plate, it has a lot of different birds on it, but we don't know what birds they are. So we have a very poor registration on what is going on this plate. This says plate with birds, but, you know, if you're looking for chickens, you're gonna have a hell of a time. So what we did was we started collaborating with universities, and we created an application that we recently launched, and we call it niche sourcing. What we do is we try and get very specific experts to annotate our collection. So not the entire crowd with keywords like love this plate or beautiful carpet. We want experts that will help us understand what birds we can see or plants or whatever. So we created this tool and we launched it last October, 4th of October, International Animals Day. And I don't know why, but it got a lot of attention in the Netherlands. So we had a lot of bird watchers. One of them even brought his binoculars. And they went through the museum going on a bird watch event. And it was hilarious. But in 2 hours, they were able to find 800 different birds on objects in the museum. And they added the Latin, you know, the Linnean names to the object. So we suddenly have this very well researched part of the collection. So now we're going to invite fish people and fashion people and plant people, and we want the best and the most scientifically annotated collection in the universe. But it's amazing what you can do if you have high resolution images, because, you know, for instance, we also invited Wikipedia to work on this annotation event, but Wikipedia is very technical. You need to know a lot about the way Wikipedia works to get things done there. And we kept this very visual and very simple. So you draw a little box on a plant or a flower, and once you've drawn the box, a small box opens and you can only enter specific keywords there. So it's very simple and it's very effective. And that's our new strategy. First of all, we want to open up everything now. So it's not just one image of an object, it's everything. So this is the paint sample app that we built for our conservation department. We do a lot of paint sample research. And we also want to share all this scientific research that we have in our museum. But paint sample research is it's something you need to know a lot about conservation and restoration to understand what it's all about. Especially when you get the reports of conservators, it's very technical, it's a lot of words, few images. So what we try then do is build an application, build a website that is very visual and makes it visible what kind of research we're doing. So in this case, this is the painting and the spots there. We took paint samples, and so that spot produced this paint sample. It has layers, and we describe what you can see. So even an amateur can now see that the color blue or gray up there it consists out of separate layers of paint. So an artist isn't just using one color, he's probably putting layer on layer on layer. And if you click on this one, you even get the chemical consistency of the layer. So for another conservator, they can look here and see the kind of research that we did without going through endless difficult technical reports. And this is just one example of a new website that we're building to share all of our data. And I don't know what the situation is like in your museum, but at the Rijksmuseum, our conservation information was always, I don't know why, but it was on paper and it was always very well hidden away. So only few people know how much information we have about our works of art. And we do hope that this will stimulate a complete openness. So we're a complete transparent museum for everyone. As I told you before, we also produced an API so other people can do stuff with our collections. It is now part of a couple of curriculums in universities, and they produce all kinds of big data reports on our collection. And it looks wonderful. As a historian or art historian, we love the colors and the bubbles and so on. But it also gives us insights into our collection that we never had. Most of our collection comes from specific parts of the Netherlands, and most materials used there, you know, you can see all these things you were unaware of, that we buy a lot of wooden objects from the north of the Netherlands and have a lot of paintings from the west of the Netherlands. You know, that our 18th century art comes from this part of the country, 17th century part, that part, art, other parts of the countries. That we have very few women in our collection and that we should do something about, and so on. So we love these kinds of things that other people do with our collection. We don't have to put any effort into it. We created the API and we invite other people to do the work for us. I also love this one. When we created the API, we were invited to participate in hackathons. I don't know if any of you know about hackathons. Have you ever tried one? It's a competition, and it used to be very underground. I don't know if it still is. But you had these competitions where you could go to with your data sets or your images, and then there would be computer programmers, and they would produce apps or websites, and it is a competition, so the best app or the best website could win the competition. The first competitions were very underground, you know, it was in a warehouse in the weekends, lots of pizza and beer, and the prize would be €100 and glory forever. But then the scene changed a bit. So in the Netherlands it's very professional now, so big companies go to hackathons and have these whiz kids test their security, for instance, or energy companies will have whiz kids produce good apps for smart thermostat, is that a right? Yeah, good English word. So the last time I went to a hackathon, I had to compete with awards that would be like thousands of euros, so I sort of gave up on it. But at the first hackathon I ever went to, we shared our collection, and someone produced a website called The Faces of the Rijksmuseum. And what he did was he cut out with a software that Facebook uses to detect faces on images. He used this software to cut out faces out of all of the paintings at the Rijksmuseum. And this is a collage of all the faces on paintings in the Rijksmuseum. And it gives a completely different view on the collection to see all the individuals. He could even measure women or men looking right, looking left, and so on. And then, you know, you're constantly surprised. You click on a face and you can see what painting it comes from. And you get a completely different view on your own collection, and I found a lot of new works of art that I had not seen before, like this one that has a lot of faces. Someone else also did research on faces and, for instance, lighting on faces and the way they looked. I can share it with you if you're interested. That was an academic person, and he found out that, for instance, in medieval times, before book print became really big, most people looked to the left against the writing direction, and after books became big, most people portrait in paintings look to this. Right and left are very difficult for me. But what happens is that we are so used to reading this way that faces portrayed a lot of times look this way. So from this side to that side, that's left to right or right to left, I don't know. But it is interesting to see how that changed because of the fact that we got books and we got trained to read from one side to the other side. I haven't investigated it, but I think in, for instance, the Arab countries, you may find that they don't portray a lot of people, that, or maybe in Japan, people usually look the other way. That would be interesting to research. And that is something that you can do now that more and more collections become digital. You can use it just for inspiration or for art historical things, but you can also use it for humanities research, or you can use it for computer sciences. Whatever it is, it opens an entire new world of research. This is another project. We are in the fortunate situation that we have a large collection. Most of our collection dates from before 1840, 1850. So most of our works of art are out of copyright. My estimation is that 80% of the collection is out of copyright. And we're digitizing it in high resolution. We've always done that, so in one of the first slides you could see we have approximately 250 to 300,000 digital images, and we share them with anyone. which means that a lot of people that want to test new software or try new things will use our collection, like they also use the SMK collection, because it's beautiful art, it's high resolution, and you can do a lot of things with it. So this one was launched last December. It's called Better, and it's a new tool that helps you make small selections on large images and then get the code to embed it in your own website or application. So it's just a very nifty tool to have small parts of images and do something with it. And of course it was demonstrated with our collection, and it helps us rethink what we can do with our images, again with someone else doing research and a lot of coding that we don't have the capacity to do. And this is again another tool someone else built with our collection. This is with our metadata. We use a lot of vocabularies like the AAT, the Arts and Architecture Thesaurus. We also use icon class. We use the FIAF to annotate who painted things. We use the ULAN of the Getty. So we use a lot of structured vocabularies. We share the links to the vocabularies that we use. And this guy built a tool that matches words. So we could upload our collection, and through a lot of, I don't know, difficult technical things, the outcome would be, okay, this is a direct match with this vocabulary, or this is a 90% match. And then we could say, okay, but we think it's similar words. The word differs, but the meaning is the same. And then if you click OK, then they add the URL to the resource for us. So they help us to structure our thesaurus and help us annotate even more parts of our collection. And so one of the things that I like most now is that the fact that we started, digitizing and doing it very well and sharing it openly now means that we get back so much more than we ever sent out. I mean, we gave up a very small business model. We gave up a bit of image selling, but now this tool, it doesn't look very sexy, but it could save us, 5 year immense time to annotate objects in our collection, just to structure the thesaurus and get the descriptions of objects right. Other people are translating our collection to many different languages. Can you imagine how much it would cost us to translate our collection to English, just to English? It would cost us years or fortunes to do that. And we have to do it because online, half of our audience comes from abroad. Only half of the web visitors are Dutch inhabitants. So by sharing our collection, we get a lot of rewards. This, for instance, is Europeana. They noted what we were doing with the connections with all the linked open data, with all the thesauri. So what they do is they use our Dutch concepts and they translate them. So they use the Getty to translate words. They don't always do a very good job at it, but they put time and energy in trying to translate our collection to different languages when it's relevant, and show us how linked open data can help us translate the collection even more in an automatic way. And I love to work with Europeana because they are always experimenting with new ways of putting collections online, and they always use our collection to demonstrate it. So they are my biggest research and development department. They also helped us upload our entire paintings collection onto Wikipedia, Wikimedia Commons. So we don't write articles in Wikipedia. We tried that. I have one colleague that is really into writing articles in Wikipedia, and I praise her for it. But it is very difficult, it's technical, it's a difficult community to work with. And occasionally they threw away everything we did because they said, oh, you work at the Rijksmuseum, so you're biased because it's your collection. Out went all my annotations. So we only uploaded our paintings images, 4,000 to 6,000 images. And these are the statistics for December 2015, and it's mind-blowing. I was proud when I said 300,000 page views or visitors, visitors a month. Um, 16 million page views a month, same month. That is such a big difference. We're so big on the English Wikipedia. We get 8 million views, more than 8 million views of paintings of the Rijksmuseum just on the English Wikipedia. Our images are featured in 2,400 different pages. Some of the images are used to tell stories that we never heard of. We have this one image of a castle of Batavia, and there's this one Japanese guy with the black hat on it. It's in the picture. Someone cut it out and wrote an entire article about this Japanese person being converted to Christianity, which was totally unique in the 17th century. And this, just for your interest, this is what Danish Wikipedians like about the Rijksmuseum collections. I'm not even going to try and read it. But this painting, the West Frisian piece at Münster, Vrede van Münster we call it, that's our most important image in Denmark. And this one is globally. I had not seen this picture. It's not on display in the museum. But this is the biggest one on Wikipedia. It's used in 1104 articles, and this is just a selection of all the articles it is used in I think 50 or 55 different languages. And you know, I was curious why it is. Well, this image once featured on the cover of the book, The Mutiny on the Bounty, and that's why everyone loves this picture. So this is our biggest hit on the internet, so totally cool. And this is my one last slide. So when we opened up our collection and opened it up to everyone, we were actually thinking of individual users, a nice programmer, a nice artist. But we found out that we can collaborate with anyone, and we collaborate with huge portal sites that help us promote our collection on a global scale that we as a museum would never be able to. So currently Google Art Institute is redoing the entire museum, and we're also uploading our entire collection into Google Art Institute, which makes us in one day the biggest art institute on Google. And everyone is welcome to do something with our collection. Okay, and this is my last slide. I will play a video after this last remark. I can imagine that you have questions or remarks or whatever. I'll be here the entire day. My Danish is more than rusty. I don't speak Danish, but you know, Merete could help me translate if English is too difficult. But feel free to send me emails, or you know, this is my Twitter hashtag, so you can tweet me and I will reply to that. And now I would like to show you all that we still like artistic reuse of our collection. Is there sound? Because this one has sound attached to it as well. Okay, excellent.
so much, Lizzy, for sharing all these amazing examples and incredible results that you have achieved.
I'm sorry.
By your open museum strategy. It's amazing to see how much effect you have achieved by sharing all your pieces with the entire world.
Yeah.
Really.
What I find most interesting is that you cannot predict how the... Oh, I'm sorry, I can speak out quite loud. But we couldn't predict what would happen. It could have failed on us, you know. It was a big experiment, but it has been so rewarding that I can only encourage you all to try it, and because it can go anywhere from the last fashion designers being inspired by your collection to, you know, students in a university doing big data research on your collection. And it just, the only thing you need to do is, you know, be adventurous and open up your collection. Don't stick to traditional things that you know, you think you may ever make money out of your collection by selling single images. And, you know, if you're good at it and specific things sell, then keep them away from your open data. But, you know, just try new things with it. And for me, I observe my own kids a lot. So if I ask them, do you know anything about Vermeer, they will Google it online. So I know that is the way to share our collection, to get new generations interested in art. So by keeping your collection away from the internet, you're actually blocking any chance of having a future generation interested in your collection, I think.
We're running out of time. Is there anybody who has a question for Lizzy, or would we?
I can shout. I'll shout back. Yeah. Of course, we have an advantage in being a large national institute. That makes it a bit easier to talk with, for instance, Europeana. But I used to work in a very small archive, and I found out that, you know, just picking up the telephone and calling them, or, you know, harassing them with emails can be very effective. So Europeana was really interested in us. It was also a very happy timing. They launched their new license, the CC0 license, and we were actually the only national museum willing to use their licensing scheme. So British Museum, Louvre, they all were scared of the new licenses by Europeana. And we said, okay, we're interested in trying it, but you have to help us. So they were very helpful. With other big organizations like Wikipedia, it can be difficult to find the right Wikipedian, but once you've found a person interested in your collection, they do all the work. So I know there's this Swedish guy that does a lot for Swedish institutions, and maybe you can use him for Nordic institutions, or, you know, just pose a question on Wikimedia Commons. Is anyone interested in this collection? Especially with, for instance, girls and women's, there's a huge community out there interested. You can just post the question, can anyone help me? And usually within 24 hours, someone is interested to help you. So I think just being bold and ask for help is enough with a lot of these organizations. I was at last Europeana meeting, and for instance, iTunes U, the educational open license educational part of iTunes, they started chasing everyone, you know, for content. They want content. So You know, if you're smart, you can even get an educator of iTunes to help you get your collection online. And just be brave and ask them.
Thank you. I'm afraid that we don't have more time for questions now, but Lizzy will stay here for the entire day. Please come and ask questions. Please, yeah. And as she said, don't hesitate to contact her afterwards.
Thank you.